Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back. So today we're diving into something that's been all over the internet lately: MAGA parents getting cut off by their own kids, families literally falling apart over politics. And look, I get it. Politics is heated right now. But some of these clips are going to have you questioning everything. We got parents slapping their adult children. We got people cutting off their own blood over who they voted for. And we got folks who voted for policies that ended up destroying their own families. It's a whole mess, and we're breaking all of it down today. Welcome back to Mind Mirror. Let's get into it.
A week ago, my mom slapped me across the face after screaming at me that she hates me and has hated me since I was born. In front of my child. She slapped me in front of my child, and my dad screamed, calling me crazy and a loser. One of my siblings screamed that I need to just shut the F up and take it. This is the same family who insists that I both need to not work when my child is at school, but also work 16-hour days to afford living on my own. This is the same family that has threatened me with legal action simply because they don't like that I'm a single mom. Didn't know that was against the law. These are the same grandparents that told me that they didn't ask for this. They didn't ask to be grandparents. Anyways, after my mom slapped me, I took all of my things, all of my child's things, and I left. And I have not.
Listen, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. If your mother slaps you in front of your child and says she's hated you since birth, that's not politics, that's abuse. And packing up your stuff in garbage bags and leaving with your kid, that's not running away. That's the most powerful thing you could do in that moment, because that little kid was watching everything, and kids remember, they file that away forever. So for anyone out there dealing with something like this, you don't owe anyone access to your life just because they share your blood. Boundaries aren't petty. Boundaries are how you teach your children what love is actually supposed to look like.
Not been back, and it's been a little over a week. And yesterday, my mom thought it would be a good idea to text me and ask to see my child next week because she, quote, knows he's out of school, end quote. Are you on drugs? When I was leaving, I had all my stuff packed in bags and garbage bags and duffel bags, and I'm trying to corral my child outside. My mom goes, "When am I babysitting next?" And I said, "Never. You're retired. You're never gonna see him again." And she goes, "Well, am I allowed to say goodbye? Am I allowed?" And then a week later, without so much as an apology, "Can we see him next week? He can stay over. You can pick him up, whatever. He can have a little sleepover." No. You don't get to hate me and then get to have a relationship with my kid. You don't get to put your hands on me and have a relationship with my child. Ever. When I said that you were never going to see my child again, I meant that. I will live in a box, and thankfully, I'm not going to have to. But I would choose poverty before I ever let my child be around an abuser. I can't imagine what it must be like to live in the delusion that I don't have any consequences, that I can say whatever I want, and I can do whatever I want, and I can hit whoever I want, and you can still see your...
The audacity of texting a week later with zero apology asking for a sleepover. Ma'am, you put your hands on your daughter in front of this child, and now you want quality time. And this is something I see constantly with older generations. This idea that being a grandparent is a right and not a privilege. It's not. You don't get to treat someone like garbage and then demand access to their kids like nothing happened. No accountability, no growth, no apology, just entitlement disguised as family love. If more people held this standard, we'd have a lot less generational trauma getting passed down like some cursed family recipe nobody asked for. She said she'd choose poverty over letting her kid be around an abuser, and honestly, that's what real parenting looks like.
grandson. What world are you living in? Because it's not the real one.
Have y'all heard about the day of the crybabies? Well, today was the day that millions of they-them liberals were kicking, marching, and throwing tantrums in the streets like they-them babies that they are. At least 1/60th of the people who voted for Kamala Harris were protesting all over the world because they can't stand that Trump and Elon Musk are trying to make America great again. They don't know what to do with themselves because many fear that they will lose their food stamps unless they go back to work. They don't know what it means to have God-fearing people ruling this country again. And all they know to do is throw their little baby fits and hope that someone gives up on them.
So this guy is calling millions of Americans crybabies for protesting, and I just find that hilarious. My brother, the country was literally founded on protest. The whole thing started because people were mad about tea taxes. You can't wave the flag with one hand and tell people to shut up with the other. That's not how any of this works. And the God-fearing people ruling the country line, bro, this nation has every religion and no religion, and they're all equally American. That's not my opinion. That's the First Amendment.
Can you believe that shit?
Oh, the little liberal girl. Oh, she's like 23 and she won't have anything to do with her parents because they support Trump. Oh my, bless your little heart. You know, can you imagine when your child is born, you look down at them and you think, man, one day my kid's going to be a total loser. That's what she's looked at. That's what this girl's turned out to be. She's proud that she cut her ties with her parents over politics. I wouldn't cut ties with my children. I don't care what politics they took on. You know why? Because they're my children. I mean, what's wrong with you? Well, I know what's wrong with her. She's liberal. And liberals are just messed up in the head by definition. And, she talks about how her brother and herself haven't spoken to their parents in 8 years. You know, one day you may look back on this when your parents are dead, and you may think, and then I know what you'll do. You'll be in therapy crying, and, oh, I'm so sad that I didn't have anything to do with my parents.
Here's where it gets interesting, because this man keeps saying it's just politics, like we're debating pizza toppings. And on one hand, yeah, cutting off your parents is a massive decision that shouldn't be taken lightly at all. But on the other hand, when someone's politics directly threaten the existence of people you love, it stops being casual disagreement real quick. Now he says he would never cut off his kids over their views, and that sounds noble. But I wonder if he'd feel the same if his kid's vote meant his other kid lost healthcare or got targeted. The reality is this: nobody should rush to cut off family. But don't sit there dismissing people's pain by calling them losers when their safety is genuinely on the line. That dismissiveness, that refusal to even try to understand why someone might feel that strongly, that is what's actually driving families apart more than the politics itself.
You know, and well, I can tell you that right now. But that's because you thrive on misery, and when they're gone, then you'll want to have a relationship with them because that's what you do. You try to destroy yourself, and then you thrive on it.
See if you can guess who the bad guy is in this situation.
It feels just absolutely batshit crazy to me that at this point in time, I say to my mother, have you heard about Minneapolis? Have you heard about Venezuela? And then I ask the question, does this change your opinion at all? And her response is, we're not going to talk about this because if we do, you'll tell me I can't see the kids anymore.
You're right. That is absolutely crazy. And I know that you think that your mom is the bad person in this situation because she's not talking about the issues that you want to talk about, and she's not changing her way of thinking to the way that you think, which is wild because I'm sure she's heard a lot about inclusivity, love, compassion, and empathy from you as well. But the bad guy in this situation is you, man, because your mom knows that her daughter is so unhinged that if she even tries to have a different opinion than her, that will be grounds to cut off contact, for her to never see her grandkids again.
Now this one is complicated because both people are doing something wrong here. The daughter is clearly using her children as leverage to force her mom to think a certain way, and that's manipulative no matter how you frame it. But the mom already knows the consequences, which means this pattern has been building for a long time. And here's what nobody wants to hear. Using kids as bargaining chips is not exclusive to one side. How many parents have disowned their children for who they love or how they identify? It happens in every direction. The actual grown-up answer is that healthy people can disagree without holding relationships hostage. But that requires both sides wanting peace and not just obedience.
Politics has become your entire identity. And it is absolutely crazy that your mom knows that you're using her grandkids as leverage to make her think the way that you do. And that your politics are the most important thing, to the point where you wouldn't even hesitate to cut off your kids from their grandparents and vice versa. You would willingly hurt the people that you're supposed to love to make a point.
Sometimes when I tell people I'm no contact with my MAGA dad, they'll say things like, oh, but he just has opinions. No. He's a wealthy MAGA dad, meaning he is actively pouring his large funds into Palantir.
I get asked a lot about what to do with MAGA family members, and I don't know. I don't know what to do with them, which is why I just choose not to interact with mine. But there are two things that I do know for sure. The one is that you should not accept abuse from anyone. And if someone can't respect a small boundary of yours, they are not going to respect a larger one. I think right now we are sort of tightening our belts on the idea of being comfortable, and it's no longer about doing the thing that makes us most comfortable. It's about choosing which discomfort we'd rather live with. One of those things where there is not a right decision, and sometimes when I'm confronted with these scenarios, the way to put it into perspective for myself is to look for the things that I'm grateful for. When it comes to these topics, which keep me up at night, my own personal relationships with my parents and talking about them on the internet, that keeps me up at night, but I am so grateful that that's what keeps me up at night. These are the decisions I have to make, not whether or not I'm going to flee the country, not whether or not my kids are going to come home and have parents tomorrow because of the color of their skin. And when I think about it that way, cutting out the people who supported creating the environment for that to be the case becomes a lot easier. And honestly, as a white person, for me personally, it's the absolute least I could do.
You may not want to believe this, but it's time that you accept it. If you have any family or friends who are MAGA, then they are evil. They are either evil, or the best thing that could possibly be said for them is that they are so breathtakingly stupid that they don't fully understand what it is they're
calling 74 million people evil or willfully stupid. And I need everyone to just sit with how wild that statement is. Because the second you label someone evil, they will never hear another word you say. You've slammed the door shut permanently. And here's the thing that keeps me up at night about this kind of rhetoric. You cannot build a functioning country by writing off half the population. The math just doesn't work. We still got to share hospitals and highways and grocery stores with these people. A lot of folks voted the way they did because their grocery bill doubled, because they feel invisible, because the system chewed them up. Now, does that excuse harmful outcomes? No, absolutely not. But screaming "you're evil" at someone who's worried about feeding their family is how you guarantee they never come to your side. If you actually want to change minds, you got to start by understanding what's driving people, not just condemning them from your moral high ground.
Reporting. And that level of stupidity at this point in time is a willful stupidity. It's a choice. It's not a stupidity for which there is any legitimate excuse. It's a choice. And to me, that makes the difference between evil and this degree of stupidity, intentional, voluntary, a chosen stupidity. It makes the
Why you're still breaking bread with people that would happily starve your children? So you've got family members who are Trumpers, and you're bending over backwards to not talk politics so you can keep the peace. But see, my question is, why are you even dealing with them at all? Because none of this stuff is really just politics anymore. These people have told you with their actions that they support hate. Hate against people for their skin color, for who they love, for being poor, disabled, or even vulnerable. They've made it clear they don't care about hungry children or the less fortunate. That's not politics, baby. That is character. Oh, why are you actually keeping the peace? Because it's your mama, your daddy, your cousin? Let me ask you a question. Did your mama and daddy raise you to ignore behavior like that? Did they raise you to sit at a table with people who take a political stance that cruelty is a good thing? Or if they didn't, why are you lowering your standard right now to continue to deal with the same type of people that act like this just because they family? Even roaches have babies, okay? Family is not a magic reason to keep toxic people in your life. And let me make this really plain, especially if you have children. Because some of y'all want y'all kids to have a relationship with your parents or like their uncles or something, right? But a relationship with what exactly? With people who think like that? Who act like that? And then you come home trying to explain to your kids why the behavior isn't okay, while you still sending them over for Sunday dinner. Make it make sense, because your kids learn more from what you tolerate than what you...
She said even roaches have babies, and yo, that line is going to live in my head rent-free, and her core message is right. Your kids learn more from what you tolerate than what you lecture about. That's actually profound. But here's where I gotta push back slightly. She's painting every single voter on one side as someone who would happily starve children, and most of those people are just regular folks who got sold a vision that made them feel safe. They're scared, they're misinformed, and yeah, some are hateful, but most are just caught up. Now, does that excuse the real-world harm their votes cause? Not even a little bit. The impact is real whether the intent was malicious or ignorant. But treating your uncle who watches too much cable news the same as a policymaker actively stripping rights that helps nobody and changes nothing.
Lecture about. So remember, at the end of the day, y'all, you have a choice. You are not required to maintain a relationship with people that undermine your humanity or your children's humanity. For real, stop acting like a victim in a situation that you can just walk away from. Protect your peace, protect your children, and stop letting its family be the loophole that keeps you stuck in harm.
Honestly, I don't feel bad for you at all. The reason why I don't feel bad for you is because when you were at that ballot, you casted your vote, and you were okay with knowing that you were voting for other girls having their daddy taken away from them. You were voting for other little girls having to come home and not have their daddy there anymore. You were voting for other families to have their daddy be deported, and you were fine with it, and you were okay with that. In fact, that's what you chose. That's what you use your American right to choose, and you were fine with choosing that for other people. But the only reason why you're even having some type of remorse or sympathy is because it happened to you when you never thought it would. So I feel like you and your daddy just need to download WhatsApp. Y'all will be okay. You'll be okay. You will. And hopefully you'll use this as a learning lesson. And hopefully you will educate yourself and really research what you're voting for before you vote next time. I don't understand how, as a child of immigrants or as an immigrant yourself, you would vote for an administration that is totally against you. That is insane and inexcusable. There's no excuse for that.
This is the one that genuinely hurts to watch. A woman crying because her terminally ill father is sitting in a cell and will probably die there, and she voted for the very administration that put him there. And I'm not going to pile on because what's the point? Her father is dying. But I do want to talk about what this really represents. This is what happens when you support something because you think it'll only ever happen to other people. When the policy was just words on a screen affecting strangers, it was fine. But the second it knocked on her door, everything changed. And that right there is the lesson for everybody. Watching, before you support any policy, ask yourself, would I be okay if this hit my family? Because if the answer is no, you have no business being okay with it hitting someone else's.
I feel that it would be immoral and inhumane to let a man who is suffering, who is terminally ill, spend what little time he has left in pain and isolation. Please don't let him die in a cell. Please don't let his final memories be of those of pain and isolation.
So this woman is a Trump supporter, and her father was just taken by ICE and thrown in a jail cell, and he's also terminally ill with 6 months to live. So more likely than not, he's going to die in a jail cell. And I just don't understand. That's not just not me saying it for the video. I genuinely don't understand. Trump said, I hate illegal immigrants. They're all rapists, criminals. They're all coming across the border and doing all these crimes in the U.S. Trump said, when I'm president, we're going to have mass deportations. We're going to have ICE go to their homes, their schools. We're going to be dragging them out of work. He said, we're going to do anything possible to get these horrible thugs out of our country. By any means necessary. It doesn't matter the cost. And you saw that and then voted for Trump. And then now that your dad is unfortunately probably going to pass away in a jail cell, you're saying we need to come together now more than ever. We need unity, compassion, and action? What? And that's why I don't understand. What in the world were you thinking was going to happen? Trump said, I'm going to carry out mass deportations. He becomes president, carries out mass deportations. And now you're upset? Like, what did you think mass deportations meant? I just don't understand how you could do that to your family. Like, for me, I don't have a single family member who is here undocumented. I don't have a single friend who's here undocumented. So with the Trump administration coming and Latinos being target number one, that doesn't affect me at all. So I voted to protect Hispanics in this country from a cruel and disgusting administration which wants to tear families apart. But you didn't vote for Kamala Harris, you voted for Trump, and you have family members. Your dad is an undocumented citizen? How do I care more about protecting undocumented citizens in the US than you? And you have family. And I know I just keep saying I don't understand, but I genuinely don't understand. I can't wrap my brain around that. Now, if Trump was, I don't know, Tom Holland, and he's known for being a nice guy who cares about people, and he's talking about, hey, when I'm president, I'm going to help undocumented citizens apply for citizenship. I'm going to help black and brown people throughout the US. If he was saying all that, and then he got elected and started carrying out mass deportations, okay, right? Then you could say, hey, I was bamboozled and swindled. I thought I was voting for one thing. I got something else completely different. But the dude made his hatred of black and brown people very clear and explicit from day one, since 2015. It's been 10 years. One of the first things he said when he was running for president was, I'm going to build a wall and keep all of these Mexicans across the border out. I don't want a single Mexican person coming up here illegally, right? So we're going to strengthen border security. We're going to build a massive, 300-foot wall, anything we need to do. And then she said in the comments, what's happening is completely wrong, whether my dad was with me or not. And honestly, millions of other Hispanics who voted for Trump are staying silent and pretending they didn't. They should be taking accountability too. Nobody, no family, no child should be going through this. Then why did you vote for the dude who said he was going to make family and children go through it? Like, I don't understand. I don't know. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.
I'm not gonna clown on this girl. Plenty of people are doing it already. But I think it's an important conversation, so let's talk about it. For those that haven't seen, there is a viral video of this girl crying, asking for help. She lives in Florida, and her father was detained by ICE and is about to be deported. On top of that, su papá tiene cancer. And from her words, it seems like he doesn't have a lot of time to live. Very sad. And if that was it, I think everybody would be rallying behind this family. But as it turns out, this girl voted for the current administration that is doing these mass deportations. She admits it in her videos. She also takes accountability that she was not educated. She wasn't watching the news. But many folks are saying it's too late. But this story, just like many others, because this is not the first Trump supporter whose family suffers because of deportations, it's a great example of people not showing empathy about events that are happening when your family is not affected or you don't think they're going to be affected. A lot of people were openly very proud about what's happening right now, up until it started happening to their neighbors, to their friends, despite many of us calling it out. The family had asked if the father could be released in the US so he could spend time with his family, and they were denied. I'm not gonna celebrate that. That's horrible. And nobody should suffer the way the family is suffering right now. But I understand people's sentiment. And the person that is suffering the most, the father, he didn't vote for this. So I personally hope the family can find some relief in some way. And I do hope that this is a learning lesson about caring for your neighbor, to have each other's back, and to be educated about choices that you're making in the future. But I want this to be a conversation, familia. What do you all think about the story? Not gonna attack her here because I see some of y'all getting a little out of hand with some of the...
What I respect about this guy is he's refusing to celebrate someone's suffering. And that's actually rare on the internet right now, where dunking on people is basically a sport. He made one point that really stuck with me, though. The father, the one actually suffering the most, he didn't even vote. An elderly, terminally ill man sitting in a cell because of choices other people made, including his own daughter. That should make everybody uncomfortable, no matter what you believe. So here's my challenge. Vote like your most vulnerable family member's life depends on it. Because one day it might.
Commentary that y'all are making. Pero la mera verdad, qué tristeza.
As a leftist in America, I don't know how to feel about people cutting off their family and friends because they voted for Trump. This goes for leftists and liberals. And no, I'm not asking everyone to be friends with fascists. Cut those people off. They're obviously too far to be gone, and there are...
What a compilation, man. Abusive parents demanding access to grandkids, families torn apart over ideology, people watching their loved ones suffer from the very things they supported. The common thread in all of this is the same: a lack of empathy and the refusal to think beyond your own front door. So where do you draw the line with family? Is there a belief that would make you walk away from someone you love? Or should blood always come first? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to hear your take. Like, share, subscribe.